Okay, Heather.
All right. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Today we are
Yes.
joined by Lee Goldberg. Lee visited us a couple months back and he decided to come back again. So we're excited. We didn't scare him off. This is awesome. Um, Lee, he has such an extensive background with TV, with literature. And it's just amazing to talk with him and to hear everything he's done from Monk to Baywatch to, is it
Diagnosis.
Sequest? The one that I forgot last time.
I always wish you'd forget Baywatch.
Diagnosis murder.
Diagnosis Murder. He's been involved in some Hallmark movies, the Mystery 101 pilot movie, and he has written a series with Janet Ivanovich, the Fox and O'Hare series. But Lee has a numerous catalog or voluminous catalog of books that he has written as well. He's written the Charlie Willis series, the Diagnosis Murder series, Monk series, the Jury series, the Fox and O'Hare series, as we mentioned, Ian Ludlow, Eve Ronan, which that is what we are going to start. That series is what we're going to start talking about tonight. The newest book, Fallen Star, just came out on October 14th, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
From the Eve Ronan series, he had a spin-off of Sharp and Walker, which the first book is Malibu Burning. And then there is, this is a new one, Crown Vic.
Yeah, those are novellas.
Okay, and we have the Edison Bixby, which will be out in May, which he will tease. But Lee, let's just start. There's so much to talk about with you, and it's amazing. Can we get brief overview of you?
I'm a former Navy SEAL. I turned down the role of James Bond to let Daniel Craig have a shot at it.
Mm-hmm.
This is my original hair, and I still have all my teeth. Um, Otherwise, I've written a bunch of books, like you said. I've written and produced a lot of TV shows. I have a new show coming up this May called You're Killing Me, starring Brooke Shields, which you'll be able
Yeah.
to see on AMC or Acorn. And hopefully soon, I don't know yet, but it looks like there may be an Eve Ronan TV series starring Madison Lintz from Bosch as Eve Ronan. But that's not firmed up yet, so we'll see. And my novel Calico is in development as a TV series. Don't know if anything will come of that, but we can hope. But the one I know for sure is coming because we're shooting it right now. It was just before I came on. I was watching dailies, which is the footage from the previous day's shooting of You're Killing Me, which I'm looking forward to seeing on the air.
Real quick about You're Killing Me. Is that based on any book that was written, or is this
Nope,
just a
nope.
screenplay that you are writing or series?
I did not create the show. The show was created by Robin Bernheim, old dear friend of mine, with whom I co-created the Hallmark series Mystery 101. Have you ever seen the TV show Hacks?
Yes.
Oh, well, it's essentially Hacks. It's about a really successful crime writer who's slipping just a little bit in sales, and she's forced to team up with a young woman who's a podcaster who's never written a book before. And together they co-author a new novel, but also they end up solving a bunch of murders. And it stars Brooke Shields, Amalia Williamson, and Tom Cavanaugh. It's shooting right now in Nova Scotia. 6 episodes, lighthearted mystery, but not as lighthearted as Hallmark. There's some profanity and sex, nothing explicit, but Brooke Shields is absolutely wonderful. She's so funny and great to work with. And excuse me, the TV series is not based on my own experiences, but it's informed a lot by my own experience working in publishing, co-authoring novels, and writing lots of mysteries. So there's a lot of inside publishing stuff in it, and you'll be able to see it. The air date has not been firmed up, but most likely around May on AMC, AMC Plus, or Acorn.
Okay.
I'm writing down notes because I'm so excited about that. And I did see a news article about Eve Ronin.
Yeah,
Now
and
that you
that
mention
got a
it,
lot of publicity. I was stunned. We don't know yet if it'll happen, but we're talking to a lot of networks and streamers. In fact, I mean, I won't go into more details, but we have a terrific showrunner. Madison is wonderful. She's perfect for the part. She's very excited. She's a huge Eve Ronin fan. She's essentially Eve Ronin. I mean, she's in her early 20s. She's played a beat cop on Bosch Legacy, so she
Mhm.
has that same experience Eve Ronin had going into becoming a detective at a very early age. So it should be a lot of fun if it happens. I'm cautiously optimistic. I've been sacrificing virgins and goats on a daily level at the altar in our backyard.
Well,
We
okay,
we always have a ball when you're on. I'm
that
telling
one.
you.
Well, we started talking about Eve Ronin possibly going to a TV series. Let's talk about the book series, Lee. Give us a little bit of background on Eve Ronin, and then we can dive into the new one without giving away too much of
Well,
the.
Eve Ronin's the youngest female homicide detective in the history of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and she didn't get that job because of skill or experience, but because of a viral video. She was off duty. She caught a famous movie star beating up on a woman, and she face planted this guy and arrested him. Uh, and it went. People were videoing it. It went viral, and it got a lot of positive publicity at a time when the sheriff's department was racked with scandals, and the sheriff's department used that positive publicity to distract people from their scandals, and they promoted Eve to homicide detective in the Lost Hills station, a job she neither deserved nor was ready for, but she took advantage of the opportunity, and now she's constantly having to prove herself that she deserves the job that she has. Now, granted, there's been 6 novels, plus she's appeared in the 2 or 3 Sharp and Walker novels, so she's had a lot of experience, but she still makes a lot of mistakes. Plus, she's made a lot of enemies in the sheriff's department. She's exposed a lot of corruption, so she can't trust that the cops behind her will actually be having her back. They may just shoot her in the back. So it's
Mhm.
set in Calabasas, California, in Los Angeles County. It's an area that has a lot of. It's sort of like California in microcosm, and it's an area that has not been written about or seen in a lot in television shows and movies. So it's fresh for me. It means I don't have to trot on ground my friend Michael Connolly and Robert Crace and others have already done extensively.
So I have to say, for those of you who have not read any of the Eve Ronin series, the first book, Lost Hills, um, I read it in 24 hours.
Fun. That's funny. That's how long it took me to write it.
I know, there you go, right? So
I did about the same amount of time.
it was
Yep.
amazing. It was amazing. I couldn't put
Yeah.
it down. I was so drawn into this character and her investigations and everything. And like I said, and then I stopped, I got done reading it. I called my mom. I said, you have to go get this book from the library. And then she's farther along in the series than I am. She absolutely loves this series. Don't think she's read the Sharp and Walker yet. I have not read that one yet. So Eve Ronin in the homicide division, various cases throughout your books. The newest one is Fallen Star. What can you tell us about Fallen Star?
I can tell you it works as a standalone. However, if you have not read the Eve Ronin novels, Bone Canyon and Movie Land, Fallen Star will spoil those 2 books for you pretty much early on because Fallen Star is in some ways a direct sequel to those 2 novels. But it does work as a standalone. If you've never read Eve Ronin, you won't be lost. It'll play just fine. But Eve Ronin now has been doing this. I mean, I've been writing about Eve Ronin now for a few years, but in actual time, book time, it's only been about a year and a half that she's been in this job. And some of her earlier cases now and decisions she made and mistakes she made come back to bite her. And that's why I call it Fallen Star, because she's at the height of her popularity, but if she solves this particular case and is honest about it, she will destroy her own reputation and her career and might even cost her her life. So but it's also a metaphor. In the midst of this whole investigation, a helicopter piloted by a movie star crashes into the hillside beneath their house. So there's some. The Fallen Star has a lot of different meanings in the book, but Fallen Star ends with Eve in a very precarious place, which I'm now writing about in the seventh book, which will be out this time next year. Also, if you do read the Sharp and Walker novels, those two characters appear in this novel as well.
When do they appear in the Eve Ronin series?
Sharp and Walker?
Yeah.
This is the first time they've appeared in the Eve Ronin series. Eve Ronin, however, has appeared in the last two Sharp and Walker novels. So there was, I think, I can't remember the exact chronology, but I think I wrote 4 Eve Ronin novels before Malibu Burning. Malibu Burning was a standalone thriller about 2 arson investigators in Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department investigating the largest wildfire in California history and beginning to suspect it's not a wildfire, that it's actually something much bigger than that. And that book was so successful that my publisher said, no, 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 don't do another Eve Ronin. We got to have more Sharp and Walker, which I had not intended to do. So I quickly wrote a Sharp and Walker sequel called Ashes Never Lie, but I didn't want too much time to go by between Eve Ronin novels. So Eve Ronin is in that book as well. And that book did really well. So my publisher said, we need another Sharp and Walker. So I did a book called Hidden in Smoke, and Eve Ronin is a big part of that book as well. So now I'm back to Eve Ronin number 7, but in actuality, it's probably close to Eve Ronin number 9 because, she's been in those 2 Sharp and Walkers. But also I don't want the Sharp and Walkers too much time to go between those either. So Sharp and Walker are in this Eve Ronin novel as well. So I have these 2 fan bases I kind of have to keep happy. But then I have a book coming out in May called Murder by Design, which is a brand new book, first in a new series, which is going to make it harder for me to keep doing Sharp and Walker and Eve Ronin every year or so. But it's sort of my take on Columbo, Sherlock Holmes, Monk, a detective with a very unique ability, with a brilliant eye for solving crimes. It's very, very different from the police procedurals I've been doing. I want to do it because I missed writing Monk. I missed writing genuine, classic, traditional whodunits, which is why I wrote Murder by Design. And my publisher liked it so much, they said, we need sequels. Okay, but it's not even out yet.
All right.
Oh, how are you going to handle at least 3 series?
I don't know. And
Plus
also
the movies or the
And
TV
the
show.
possible
Yeah.
TV series?
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem for me is balancing my time between my TV work, my book work, and actually having a family who expect me to kind of interact with them. So, I mean, my wife would actually like me to be present now and then. So it's
Really?
and to put the toilet seat down and bring up laundry, but also present.
One thing at a time.
With the toilet seat, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Just a reminder for those of you on Facebook, you can drop your questions in the comments. For those of you on the Zoom, you can put them in the chat or you can unmute and ask Lee any questions you want. So, and I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought Sharp and Walker were in Eve Ronin, but I guess I got it backwards. Eve Ronin was in Sharp and Walker. Yeah. You said you're working on the 7th Eve Ronin. How many more do you think will be in the series?
It depends how people react to the books. As long as people keep buying them and reading them and leaving wonderful reviews, then there'll be more Eve Ronins. And of course, if the TV show happens, there'll be more Eve Ronins.
Oh yeah.
At best I can do, if I really want to be, at the top of my game, I can do 2 books a year. So I just have to decide what those books are going to be. There have been times where I've written 3 or 4 books a year, but I didn't have a TV show going on at the same time. So we'll see. A lot depends on sales. That's why Sharp and Walker for a while dominated my writing books because the demand was there, and you want to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. If Murder by Design opens big in May, I suspect that the next Eve Ronin, after the 7th one that I'm writing now, will be put off for a while because they'll want more Edison Bixby's. So we'll see.
Oh my goodness. So, okay. We have Eve Ronin, Sharp and Walker. We have Edison Bixby.
Hmm.
How do you keep everybody straight?
Oh, it's
Like, do you
easy.
have a flow chart?
No, they're all very different. What I can't keep straight are all the. I'll see if I can reach over here without knocking everything over. It's everything that's happened in previous books. So like right now, I'm writing Eve Ronin #7, and her past is involved in these books. So to keep everything straight, I've got what I call working copies of my previous books that are filled with, creased pages and highlighting, so I can try to keep track of what I've done in the past and what I've said and when events happen. And I'm fortunate in that. Let's hope I don't spill all my notes here. Hang on, if I can show you.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Um, no, I probably will spill everything. But I also have from my copy editor, they keep track of some events, who characters
Okay.
are, what they look like, um, their relationship to Eve, that kind of thing. And I have a chronology, but it doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. I've had plenty of readers call me on some of my dumb mistakes, but I'm human. I make mistakes, and I don't rush to. I don't try to rewrite the past to fix them. I just own them.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
right.
own them and write the next book.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just keep moving.
I mean, I've had this conversation with other author friends of mine who've written, tons of books in a series. It's like, it's impossible. And some of them have Uber fans they go to, and they email a fan saying, well, what year did my hero graduate from which high school or whatever, and get an instant answer
Wow.
back. So there are some fans who know the books better than the authors do in terms of those little niggly details. I mean, imagine if
Wow.
you're writing Star Trek now with how many different Star Trek series and movies and books, and I mean, how do you keep all that crap straight? It's fiction.
I don't know.
I don't I don't take it too hard if I make a mistake. It's like, all right, it's make believe.
It is. And it's an escape from reality for us.
Um,
That's what we enjoy.
uh, what's his name? Stephen Hunter. He wrote a novel, I think it was Point of Impact. And then he wrote another one called Dirty White Boys. And it became the Earl Swagger series or Bobby Earl Swagger. Anyway, it became a huge series, a bunch of spin-offs. But he had no idea when he wrote the first two books that it would become a series. So in order for the series to continue, he actually had a foreword in one of his books saying, I know I said in book 1 and 2 that my hero was in this battle in Vietnam and this thing happened on this hill, and well, forget that. In order for this series to work, that can't ever have happened. So it didn't happen. It's you have to, if you look at like Magnum PI and The Odd Couple, they always rewrite how they met or how things started. And
Yep. They
there's
do.
a term for that, retconning or something, when you go back and change the history of your character so it works. I haven't done anything that big in my books where I've made a huge mistake, but I've made little ones.
To look that one up. Well, let's talk about you for a minute. How did you get started in all this?
Well, I've told this story a lot, so if it sounds rehearsed, it's because I've just repeated it so many times. Uh, both my parents were not writers. My father was an anchorman on KPIX in San Francisco when I was growing up.
Oh.
So he's always on TV, talking just like this, with the same insincere smile on his face that I have right now. And he spoke this way even when he wasn't on camera. So television was always part of my life, and my mom was the Paris Hilton of her day. Your party didn't count if my mom didn't show up.
Wow.
And my mom was named one of the 10 sexiest women in San Francisco when I was growing up. And so she ended up writing a gossip column for the Oakland Tribune and the Contra Costa Times. And then she just became a society editor and a gossip reporter and party goer for the Palm Springs Desert Sun and all that. So reporting and journalism were always in my life. And I put myself through school writing articles about the entertainment industry for Starlog, American Film, Los Angeles Times Syndicate, Playgirl. I mean, anybody who'd hire me. And I also had dreams of being a novelist. And I had a professor, journalism professor, who wrote these big, bulky conspiracy thrillers like Robert Ludlum wrote. And he was approached to write what was called a men's action adventure series, sort of like the male equivalent of the Harlequin romance. They had titles like The Executioner, The Destroyer, The Immolator, The Defecator, The Drooler. They all had OR or ER at the end, and some guy with a big gun on the cover, and women with giant boobs and explosions. And he said he wasn't interested in writing horrible, exploitive crap like that. But he knew somebody who was, and he recommended me. So when I was 18 years old, I wrote, let's see if I can show you the cover behind my head. There it is. I wrote 357 Vigilante by Ian Ludlow. So I'd be on the shelf next to Robert Ludlum and Ian for Ian Fleming. So people would go, Ian Ludlow, I think I read something by him. It wasn't bad. And I wrote four of those Vigilante novels. This back in the day before InDesign and graphics and everything when you had to paint a cover. So that was the cover of the four books, and all they changed was the scene at the bottom to match, whatever action was going on in that particular book, and then they splashed the title and everything across that painting. Um, so my first book, 357 Vigilante, came out while I was still a student at UCLA. It was a huge bestseller. New World Pictures bought the movie rights, hired me to write the script, and that's how my screenwriting career began and my book career. And I've been doing both ever since. The movie never got made, and the publisher went out of business, and the fourth book didn't come out. So I ended up buying the uh, the cover painting for the fourth book that wasn't released. It was actually the cover painting for all four, but I bought the painting from the author, the artist. I've since republished those books under my own name, called it the Jury series. You can buy them on Amazon in ebook or paperback. Just keep in mind I was 18 years old when I wrote them. So they're crap, but they still sell amazingly. Um, I can tell you some funny stories about those books. Those stories will sound rehearsed too because I've told them 17,000 times. But it was a great awakening into the world of film and books.
So you've gotten better with age, is what you're saying,
I
right?
think so. I like to think so. Yeah. I mean, you think it
Fine
would get
line.
easier though. I mean, each book is, I mean, after all these books, you think, oh, it's so easy. You can just bang them out.
No.
No. I mean, I've had seen situations, particularly when I was writing the monk novels, where I'd be writing them and going, oh God, it's flowing so good. I'm so in touch with my muse. I'm such a great writer. Oh God, it's great. It's so easy. And then I realize it's because I've written this scene before.
Oh. Well,
Oh, I drove Sean out of the room. Did you see that? She
I
left to
know,
go
you just
vomit.
drove
Wow, I
away.
have
What are you
a bunch
doing?
of your monk books.
Oh.
See? Do have a bunch of monk books here.
I may have some on my shelf. I don't know.
Yes, that's
But-
why I did. I
and-
had to bring them
I
out.
just want to. I think I got this one right. You wrote the monk books as the series was ending, but
No.
diagnosed, or do I have it
I
backwards?
was also writing on Monk the TV series.
Right.
I wrote
But-
3 episodes of that show, 4 episodes, I can't remember. But I mean, I wrote the Monk books while Monk was still on the air because
Right.
2 of my Monk books were adapted into episodes. And Diagnosis Murder novels I started writing after I left
After.
Diagnosis Murder.
There
I was
you go.
unlike Monk on Diagnosis Murder. Bill Rabkin and I were the executive producers. We wrote most of the episodes. We rewrote most of the episodes. We really felt like that show was ours, and it was great when I had the chance to write the books because I got to write books. I got to write stories I couldn't tell on Diagnosis Murder, and I got to end Diagnosis Murder the way I always intended to end it
Mhm.
had I stayed until the end. And on Monk, while I was doing that series, the showrunner, Andy Breckman, was approached by Penguin Putnam to write books. He said, I have no interest in doing it, but if Lee wants to do it, then he has my blessing and just don't touch his work. And it was great because on the Diagnosis Murder books, nobody told me how to write them. No one dared edit me. No one was going to tell me how to write Diagnosis Murder.
Mhm.
And with Monk, because Andy gave me carte blanche, no one from the studio or the publishing company could tell me, oh no, this isn't Monk, this isn't right. As far as he was concerned, it was mine to do whatever I pleased. And he liked the book so much, we did 2 episodes were made into 2 books were made into episodes that I wrote, and then one was made, it was adapted that had nothing to do with.
So I guess, and I don't know if this is going to be a good question or not. I know there's no such thing as a bad question, but this might be a bad question. Is it easier to write a book or to write like a script for a program?
A script, far easier.
And why?
Because I don't have to be the writer, director, producer, set designer, location manager. With a script, it's a blueprint. It's an outline for other professionals to go do their work, for actors to act, directors to direct, set builders to build sets. So all I have to write is interior room day. guy walks in, meets with the. I mean, I don't have to fill it with prose. It's
Okay.
dialogue and action driven. I can write a script very, very quickly. In fact, my new way of writing novels, I say new, I've been doing it now this way for 5 or 6 years, is I write my books first as a script. Not that I ever intend to sell or anything. I write it as a script first just to get the story on its feet and get out of my system, and so I can see if it works. And then I essentially novelize my own script because at this point I know it works and I can just color between the lines and rewrite. So
Right.
it's really sped up my writing. It's made my writing leaner. It's made it more character focused. So a script is, I mean, I can write a script in 4 or 5 days for an episode of a TV show. I see we have a new member of the chat
He's
showing
the
up
one
here.
that goes in the crate.
Ah. Uh, well, my
Um,
dog may be coming in through the door at any moment and jumping on the couch, but
yeah, she's
uh,
just lonely. So do you keep the scripts then in case the books go into a TV
no, no, no,
series?
no, no, because the scripts are really just for me.
Okay.
Um, but like the Eve Ronin TV show, if it goes, will be written and produced by a guy named Gabriel Garza, who's fantastic. Um, my book Calico, if it goes forward, there's a group of writers who are involved in that show. I mean, I'll be involved in those series. I'll probably be writing scripts in those series, but I won't be running them day to day.
Well, let's talk about Calico. We've mentioned it. I know that's a novel. It's not part of a series, correct?
Yep.
Okay. What is that about?
It's a standalone thriller. Well, I should say standalone in that I intended to write sequels, but I haven't had the time. And now that there's a TV series in development, I'm loath to write a sequel because I want to see what the TV show does. I don't want to be too far away from what happens with it. But
Mhm.
Calico is takes place in present day in 1883. It's a crime novel that shares the same dead body, essentially. So there's two timelines. And in present day, a woman investigating a murder in the Mojave Desert, and a stranger in 1883 wanders into the mining town of Calico and gets involved in troubles there. And I play them off against each other, the Western and the present day police procedural, until they collide. To tell you more would be giving away stuff that would make it a spoiler. But it's a big idea thriller, and some people absolutely love it. Some are not. Some are mad at me for the twist, but I would say of all the books I've written, it's probably the one that people have reacted with the most emotion towards. People have told me they've read it or listened to it multiple times. Please, please, please write a sequel. And I had a sequel in mind, but then I had all these contracts for other books. I had no time to write a sequel. And then the TV series started development, and it just seemed like it was not a good use of my time right now to write a sequel to Calico, especially if I ended up going in a completely different direction than the TV show, if the TV show happens. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed. How do you come up with all these ideas?
I have a very expensive family.
I, 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 nope,
It's
that
it's
works
one
for
thing when
me. That works.
it's one thing when you're writing just for fun, which I do it for fun, but to be candid, it's how I make my living. It's my
Right.
job. And I have to come up with ideas because I want to pay for my mortgage and I want to, pay for my daughter's graduate school and I want to eat and have toilet paper and you know, go on trips and things. So it's have a retirement. It's how I make my living. I need to have ideas. I need to keep writing. I need to know because there's 12 months between when I deliver a book and when it's released.
Mhm.
I'm always looking years ahead as far as cash flow is concerned. I'm not starving by any stretch, but I'm planning ahead for what
Right.
it's not like a typical job where you get a paycheck every month. I have to know what books I have coming in the future, so I know, okay, here's the money that'll be coming in. Plus, I do get royalties each time a new book comes out. My backlist surges, and I get fresh royalties. But that's a little peek behind the curtain of how the business works. But it's a job. I mean, yes, it's an
Yeah.
art, but it's also a job, which is another reason why, I wrote those Sharp and Walkers. You want to write what is going to make the most money and be the most widely popular. I don't just write whatever I feel like writing. That said, my novel Lost Hills, my novel True Fiction, and my novel Calico were all written on spec. They were written when I wasn't under contract. I sold all three and they all became series. So I actually have a book I've been working on for 2 years now. Maybe it's been three, on spec that keeps getting interrupted by books I have contracts for. So I do have another spec novel that I hope to finish in the near future so that I can, get it out there. It's like, you can't see it, but the novel and all the research is in a big, two big boxes over there. I mean, I do a lot of research for my books. To give you an idea, for the Eve Ronin I'm doing right now,
Don't knock
this
anything over.
this is just the research for the book. This isn't the book. This is the research. So
Now, what kind of research do you do?
I
Like,
do a lot. I mean, I do a lot, especially on those Sharp and Walker novels. I don't know anything about arson investigation, and it's a very detailed field. I mean, it's a scientific field, and so I have a notion of what I want to do, but then I have to reach out to professional arson investigators and firefighters to find out if what I want to do I can get away with and how I want to solve it if I can solve it. And for my upcoming book, Murder by Design, it's about a guy, and I won't give away everything now, but the guy is a outrageously attractive, obscenely rich guy who looks just like Glenn Powell from Twister and all these romance movies. Who
I'm gonna
is
say you based it on
on
yourself.
myself?
But
Yeah.
keep
I was
going.
going to say the
Who-
same thing.
Who arrives at crime scenes in a Bugatti with a bubble light on top. Who's the LAPD's greatest homicide detective until he got shot in the face, and now he's a insurance investigator with some neurological disorders, but his superpower, so to speak, is he solves crimes using principles of design. He looks at this world and sees the built world around us, how no crime can happen if it's not allowed by the design around it. If there's a famous architect named Bernard Tschumi who said the best way to understand architecture is to commit a murder, because a murder is not possible without the design of the building. If somebody falls out of a window in a building or is pushed out a window or jumps out, the building is an accomplice for allowing it to happen. And so much of our world now is built around us and all the devices around us. We don't realize how much we are manipulated and controlled by everything that's around us. And that's how he solves crimes. But I'm not an expert in that kind of behavioral science. So I had to read a ton of books, interview a ton of experts. I must have one, two, three, four, five binders of research on design just to write that one book. But what I do is once I get all that excuse me, all that research, it's in my head and it's in a binder here if I need specifics, but I use it just to inform my writing and what the characters do and say. I don't want to convince you all that I've done all this research by, and there are authors who do it and it's I find it really irritating. When trying to prove to the readers, I went to this place or I did this research, let me bombard you with pointless details. I try to put enough details in that you'll think I know what I'm talking about when I don't, and to get you to believe the fictional world I'm creating. So, but I do need to do the research in order for me to feel comfortable writing the book.
Do you do all your research? Again, this is probably gonna be. Do you do all your research in the beginning, or do you do a majority of it in the beginning, start writing the book, and be like, "Huh, I don't know where this is gonna lead me. I have to do more research." Kind of
I do it all ahead of time.
all through.
I
all
don't
ahead.
want to be distracted while I'm writing by having to set my book aside to do more research.
Okay.
But now
Well,
that's not to say I don't have an inspiration and do something new and realize, uh-oh, I don't know how this works. I need to talk to an expert. I will pick up the phone
Right.
and call somebody I mean, one of the advantages, this sounds really self-serving and I apologize, but one of the advantages of being a New York Times best-selling author is I can reach out to a stranger and say, "Hey, I need some information on coin collecting, or I need information on
Mhm.
this type of forensics, or I can call the NTSB and talk to an expert about something involving a helicopter crash." And I can say, "I am Lee Goldberg. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I'm writing a new book. Check me out." So you can see I'm real. contact me independently, so you know I'm not some scammer from the Philippines, and they will. They'll call me back, or talk to us. Like I could say, one of your colleagues recommended I reach out to you. You can reach out to this FBI agent or this medical examiner for corroborate I'm the real deal. So I'm able to get through some doors that other authors are not able to because I've got a
Mhm.
bunch of books people can see on Google, or they can actually, Google my face. They can see I am who I say I am.
I was just going to ask you, how many times you get hung up on, and do they actually respond to you?
99% of the time they respond to me.
That's good. That's good. That's amazing that you can just pick up the phone and do that.
Well,
Yeah.
I've been doing it now for 40 years. My parents were reporters. I was a reporter. I used to cover the police beat for lesser newspapers in Northern California. I have no problem picking up the phone
Mhm.
and asking questions and relying on my reporter past to find out what I need to know. Um, so it's fun. It allows my books to feel more realistic and allows my dialogue in my books to come from a realistic place.
That's awesome. I don't even know if I want to go into this series because where it led us last time, the Charlie Willis series.
Oh,
Gosh.
that's in my distant past. You can let people discover that on their own.
Yeah.
Can't go into that one, guys. You're going to have to just Google the books. It's fine.
That's it. On that series, yes, I agree.
Moving on. How did you end up hooking up with Janet Ivanovich for the Fox and O'Hare?
We had a torrid affair. I don't talk about it when my wife's in the room,
I,
but
I got to tell you, she
we were
rode your
secret
coattails,
lovers.
Lee.
No, I've told this story a million times too. I may have told it last time I was here, but Janet and I have been friends for decades. We don't even remember truthfully how we met. We think it must have been when she was on her book tour for One for the Money. Um, because I knew her before she was Janet Ivanovich, when she was just Janet Ivanovich, before she really broke through. And it had to be with the first book because I wasn't reading romances. Um,
Mhm.
we've been friends forever. And she was in LA. Whenever she comes to LA for some meeting or something, we get together and have an epic dinner, catch up with each other. And we were having one of those epic dinners, and she was having trouble with one of her co-authors and didn't understand how I collaborate because on TV it's all about collaboration, and I'd written
Mhm.
those Monk books, but I didn't create Monk, and I had a series with Amazon called The Dead Man, and we did 24 books, and I collaborated with a whole bunch of authors on that, and so she's just curious about the whole collaboration process, and how do you do it? And then we talked a lot about movies and TV shows we like that aren't being done anymore. When we loved Remington Steele and the Thomas Crown Affair and It Takes the Thief and the Avengers, not the Avengers superhero movies, but John Steed and Emma Peel, the old British show. And it's like, why aren't people doing that anymore? I mean, I'd love to see or read that again. And then there's this silence, which you can have a comfortable silence among old friends. And she's like, how come we've never written a book together? I said, you never asked. She said, well, why don't we write this? I said, what is this? And she said, well, we were talking about the book we wish someone would write, a TV show we wish someone would do. Why don't we do that? So we talked about that for a bit at dinner, and we're laughing. And I went home and I wrote up the notes of our dinner discussion, and I emailed her saying, hey, look, when you sober up in the morning, you decide you don't want to do this, that's fine. Don't worry. But no, she loved it. And she took it to her publisher, and I think 24 hours later, we had a 4-book deal. And I think less than a year later, we were #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It was great. We did 5 books together, and there was no acrimonious split or anything. I just had other things I wanted to do, and said, this has been great. The 5 books been wonderful. I think we've taken the series to a point where I'm kind of happy walking away and, leaving it to another writer to do. And if I hadn't walked away, I mean, I could have kept doing these forever. They were hugely successful, making a ton of money and, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of readers. It was great, but I wouldn't have gotten to Lost Hills and True Fiction and all these other ideas I had. And so I walked away and did these other books. And to be honest, people always ask me, have you read the books that followed? And no, I have not. I've made a conscious effort not to read the books that followed in the same way I don't watch shows I've left either, because all I know is it'll make me angry, or frustrate me, that my characters are not being handled the way I would want them to be. So I made the mistake once of watching Diagnosis Murder after I left, and I was so freaking mad that I stopped. You know, you shouldn't leave a show if you're going to get mad with what they do with it after you go.
So any thoughts of like, I know after you left that series, there was two more books.
Was there
Any
two or
thoughts?
three? I think there were three, weren't there?
I thought there
Maybe,
was two.
maybe there was two. I don't remember. I don't know. I wasn't
Yeah.
keeping track.
But any thoughts of going, hey, Janet, you want to pick it up
No,
again?
no. In
No.
the same way, I won't ever do a monk or diagnosis murder. Um, I have made a conscious decision to no longer do tie-in novels,
Okay.
and I'm not really interested in co-authoring books. I'm busy enough as it is with my own novels. I get asked all the time to co-author, or publishers approach me saying, "Hey, Lee, could you come up with a concept and co-author it with another writer, where you just do a polish afterward?" To basically use my name to carry on another series. I write enough books I don't need to be competing with myself and have other books out there that are co-authored with me. And I don't need to co-author with another writer either. I've got plenty of books of my own. So at least I shouldn't say never, but I don't foresee in any time in the near future me co-authoring books with anybody.
I don't know. I saw you got the email from John Grisham.
Yeah. I don't understand how anybody falls for these scam emails where J.K. Rowling or John Grisham or Janet Ivanovich or some big author you've never met writes you and says, "Hey, I love your books. Tell me about your writing journey so I can help you market your book. And here's my photo and my resume." And there are people who fall for this shit. And what's funny is they will email me under the guise of authors who are actually my friends. And so sometimes I'll write back saying, "Oh, it's so unusual to get an email from you that includes your photo and bio. If you're really, I know they're not really this person, but if you're really Robert Crace, tell me about how we met and what dear friend we have in common." That always throws them. You know,
Or
Do
where
a
we went to
video.
dinner last week.
yeah.
I think I watched you. You had it up on one of your. I don't remember where I saw it, but where you actually took a call.
Oh, I do. When
I
I'm
I watched it.
procrastinating about a book or when I have time on my hands, I will sometimes, because not only do I get these emails from these scammers,
Yeah.
they call me. So, and I mean, literally every day, I get a call from a scammer who wants to make my book a success. And so sometimes I'll take the call and I will record it.
I
And I
watched
tell them
them.
I'm recording it. I say, "I'm recording this. I don't want to miss one word of your brilliance."
Yeah.
And or they'll even say at the beginning of their call that they're recording it, and I'll say that makes two of us. And I pretend to be a rube for a little bit, and then I reveal that I'm not. And if you try to get them to go off their script, and they completely freak out.
Uh-huh.
Like they claim to be like, "We're based in Newport Beach," and I'll even Google Earth their address, which is usually a post office box in Newport Beach, whatever. "Oh, I can come over. I live a block away." "Oh, no, no, don't do that." "Well, or I'll say, "I have a question for you. Is that wonderful Subway, that wonderful delicatessen still across the street?" "Oh yeah, we eat there all the time." It's like, "There's an empty lot across from you, you idiot." I love just nailing them. But then they get mad at me. "You're an evil, mean person for deceiving us this way." Well, crawl back under your rock in Nigeria or the Philippines, wherever you're from, and
Right?
I enjoyed watching them. That the ones that you posted. I was like, it's amazing how you start off really calm. Oh yeah, tell me more about the author, and then all of a sudden you get them, and they're like,
they don't know what to do. They don't.
no, exactly.
And sometimes they'll then send me to their supervisor, who then
Yeah.
tries to smooth talk me. Um,
Oh my goodness. So
but
anyone on the Zoom have questions? We have some in the chat here. Tam Sesto said, "I just got it on Kindle Unlimited. Can't wait to dig into it. I love the series." Assuming that was Fallen Star, Tam, when we were talking about it. Anita said, you are busy. Do you have a favorite place to write?"
Well, in my business, I can't have a favorite place to write. I have to be able to write wherever I am, whether it's in an airplane, in the bathroom, on a chase lounge, in a waiting room, on the set of a TV show. I can't wait until I have my favorite slippers and exactly the right water and
Mhm.
music and all that. But I would say 90% of the time I'm right here where I'm talking to you right now, sitting at my desk, writing, listening to music, with my research right here or the books I need over here. Um, but I've written everywhere. I mean, sometimes it gets embarrassing if I'm on a plane, particularly if it's a sex scene or something, and there's a person at the next seat like, "Oh my God, I'm next to a horrible pervert," or in a hotel. Um, people. There are times I want to hold up a sign and say, "I really am a writer. I'm,
See,
I'm
look
not
at my
just."
picture on the book. Right?
Walk around with the book with you.
Here's my
Um,
book jacket.
CJ would like to know, do your characters talk to you or ever tell you what to write?
Yes, I mean, they don't talk to me in the sense of like I'm having a conversation with them. But when the writing's really going well, it's as if I'm possessed by the scene or the characters, and I'm surprised by what shows up on my screen. I'm surprised by what they do. And there have been many times where I have fallen in love with a character who's either supposed to die or disappear from the book, and they keep coming back. And I end up having to adjust my outline to deal with the fact I keep putting off getting rid of this character. The character takes on a life of his or her own. I have a saying that my outlines are living outlines. I always have an outline for my books and my scripts, but I never finish my outline until about a week or two before I finish my book because I'm always adjusting my outline to account for the changes I've made while I'm writing my book. So the outlines are constantly changing as well. Like I'll flash it real quick. Ah, there. See that? Can't see what's coming. But I have an outline. I've highlighted stuff in the outline that has to change because I've messed it up by deviating from the outline. So that the highlighted scenes have to change when I get to them because I kept this person alive or move things around. And that's part of the fun, part of the discovery of writing a book for me. Now, I see someone here has a question about true fiction, and
Yeah.
there's a situation where I wrote a book without any intention of ever having a sequel. It was supposed to be a standalone thriller. And then my publisher said, "It's fantastic. We need the sequel in, by this date." What the sequel? I don't have a-
Tam was saying she's read True Fiction and she thought she laughed a lot, even among the gunfire. It was
So then
really
I,
good
had to
book.
come up with a sequel. But at least when I wrote the sequel to True Fiction, I thought, okay, this might go on, and had an idea in mind for the third one. And then after I wrote the third one, my spec novel, True Lost Hills, sold, and that was such a massive success, far more successful than the Ian Ludlow's, that I made the tough decision. So did my publisher to just move on with the Eve Ronins and not do more Ian Ludlow's. It doesn't mean I won't ever go back, but you go where the audience is. You go where readers wanted more of Eve Ronin, and there were far more Eve Ronin readers than there were Ian Ludlow readers. So
Wow.
I am a creature of the marketplace. The readers do dictate in many ways what I'm writing next, except with Murder by Design. That was a book I had to write for myself. Calico was a book I had to write for myself. I wrote Calico during the pandemic when I was between contracts, and I thought, well, if not now, when? I'll write it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And sold it as soon as the pandemic was over.
Oh, wow. Anita loved both shows, Diagnosis Murder and Monk. We're going to flip to Facebook now and see what questions and comments we have there.
Okay. Besides the hellos and good evenings, Chang says she loves James Bond and congratulations on your writing and filming achievements.
Thank you.
Um, do you involve are you involved in the character casting when making TV shows based on your books?
Well, I've never done a TV show based on my book. I mean, none have been made. I was very, very much involved in the casting of Madison Lintz. I pursued her aggressively. I was really, pounding on the producers. I was calling my friend Michael Connolly. And it's like, we want Madison Lintz. And it turned out that Madison was already a big fan of the books, so it was not a tough sell. Which isn't, she knows those books inside out. In fact, I could probably call her and ask for information if I'm not sure on something. Um, but as far as the TV shows, Diagnosis Murder, Sequest, the show I'm doing now, You're Killing Me, I'm absolutely integrally involved in the casting. I look at all well, back in the day of Diagnosis Murder, all the casting was live right in front of you. The actors came in for casting sessions. Now it's all done on Zoom. So I spend hours slogging through Zoom auditions, um, you know, I'm not the showrunner of You're Killing Me. I'm a co-executive producer, so I don't make the final decision, but my voice has a lot of sway with Robin, who ultimately makes the decision. But also the network and the studio, they also weigh in. So, but yes, I'm very, very involved in the casting.
Hey, Regina would like to know how long does it take you to write a book and where, well, you already know where your favorite place to write is. Would you prefer to be in your
I
slippers
like to
at
be
home with,
sitting at a booth at Kentucky Fried Chicken with
oh,
a big
okay,
bucket in front of me and constant biscuits. My favorite place to be.
Love biscuits.
But
biscuits.
in terms of writing a script, if you're on a weekly television show, you don't have the luxury of time.
Mhm.
I've written scripts in as little as 24 or 48 hours, but typically you have a week to write a script. In the best of all possible worlds, you have 7 working days to write a script. Um, and in terms of how long does it take me to write a book, in an ideal world, which is not often for me, I like to have 5 months to write a book. I'll write a book in 5 months. Then I have 4 weeks to have a vacation and plot the next book and jump right into the next book. That way I can write 2 books a year. But I've written books in as little as 8 weeks. In fact, Fallen Star, I wrote in 10 weeks.
Hmm. Wow.
But like the book I'm writing now, I have the luxury of my 5 months. So it's been nice, especially while doing a TV show because I've got so many demands on my time between writing and rewriting scripts on the TV show, but also watching the footage and being involved in editing and casting and everything else, prepping with the director. I spend hours on Zoom every day.
I feel honored that you took time out tonight for us with your busy schedule and
I
that
told
you,
them all to go to hell. I need to be
That's
with.
it. You
yeah,
go. Let's see. You're so busy. What do you like to do when in your free time, if you have when you have
me
free
time.
time?
I
Yeah,
like
free
I
time.
I like to travel. I love traveling, but travel usually has something to do with my work because I like to pick places to travel that I'm going to be writing about. Um, I like to read. I like to watch old TV shows. I like to take walks and listen to audiobooks while I walk. I like to have nice meals. I hang out with my family. But my hobbies are closely related to my profession. I like to read, and I love sitting on a Chase lounge in Hawaii somewhere reading a book, or taking a walk in a around a lake and listening to a book on tape. But travel, I try to take a big trip, 1 or 2 big trips every year to some exotic place. And it's pretty, what's the word, mercenary. If I know, okay, I have a trip coming up, what do I want to write about? Okay, I think I'll set my next book in Australia. Let me go to Australia. And then it becomes a research trip, but it's also, I'm away.
Mhm.
And research allows me to get more involved with wherever I'm going. And what I tend to do is, if I'm going somewhere that I'm researching for a book, ahead of time, I call people I want to meet while I'm there. If I want to meet local law enforcement, or like for one of my Fox and O'Hare books, it was all set in the catacombs under Paris. So before I went, I made connections with all these cataphiles, these groups of illegal spelunkers who move through the catacombs under Paris illegally and set up appointments, so to speak. But we'd meet at 9 p.m. in this dark alley and we'd go in the tunnels together. My wife came with me. She's French, so she wanted to see these things too. So, I'll set up appointments with, homicide detectives or experts in, certain fields that I'm interested in. Um, so it's a research trip, but also it's a vacation because you get to see inside of a culture and a place in a way that you never have before, in a place in a culture that's unfamiliar to you. Like, I went to Macau to research one of my Fox and O'Hare novels, and I arranged to meet with casino operators there who could tell me about how the casinos operated and how it's different from other places. So, it's there are interviews involved, and so yeah, my vacation is sort of blurred with work. It's more work than vacation, but you know what I mean. It's at least I'm somewhere different.
The way
I'm
you
still in the catacombs in France, but go ahead.
the
I'm
way
sorry.
you were explaining the catacombs and how you're getting the, underground, it reminds me of there is a woman, an investigative reporter woman. She has a TV show. She does Mariana, and I can't remember her last name, but she always like does the undercover and like, you know, when she wants to investigate, say, drug dealing, for instance, she actually goes behind the scenes and
Yeah.
gets in with those.
I only do that when it involves hookers and strippers. Otherwise, I
Okay.
don't. I'm joking. No, I never go undercover, but I spent a lot of
Well,
time in
that,
morgues, a lot of time with criminalists and homicide
yes,
detectives.
she does all that.
I've gone to homicide investigator training conferences. I've visited morgues and autopsies. I've watched interrogations. I've done that. When I was doing diagnosis murder, I spent a lot of time with doctors and so I get involved in the research to that degree. And as far as the catacombs, it wasn't like I was committing a bank robbery, but no, it's not legal to go in the tunnels underneath Paris. Um, Anymore, especially now in this world of terrorism. And you have to open up a manhole cover, and there's secret ways in, or there are certain basements where you can get in. And the city of Paris has closed a lot of the catacombs to try to prevent people from moving through. But it's a vast, vast network, and it's interconnected with the sewers and the subways, and there's all these kinds of ways around. I mean, you can, as a tourist, you can visit the catacombs. There's a section of the catacombs that's open to the public that has all the bones that they took from various cemeteries and stuck down there. You can take a sewer tour, but the catacombs that I see or saw are not open to the public, and they have people watching to let you know if there are cops coming or
Wow.
anybody down there is not supposed to be there. They have a real, and I wasn't allowed to take photos of anybody I was with. They were wearing masks and things. Well, when I was but
Yeah.
it was, we got filthy dirty, but it was fun. It was great, and I used that experience in a number of books. I used it in a Monk novel, Mr. Monk is Miserable, and I used it in a Fox O'Hare novel. I ended up going to the catacombs twice. I did it, I think, first in the Monk book, and then I did it later in for the Fox and O'Hare, and it was great.
Huh.
Oh, it sounds like so much fun. I remember my
Does.
husband telling me he used to travel the tunnels under the city hall in Philadelphia, but I don't know what for. He cut through them to get from one side of the building to the other.
Hmm. Let's see. A few people have said that your novel Calico has piqued their curiosity and sounds really good. Belinda would like to know, are all of the Ian Ludlow series thrillers?
Yes, but they're comedic, darkly funny thrillers. They are thrillers, but they're also spoofs of thrillers at the same time. It's about a
That's a
guy who writes thrillers who's forced to become the action hero he writes about to survive and discovers just how little he knows and actually how much he knows. Um, so it's also kind of an inside look at publishing and how thrillers are written and how little they have to do with the real world. So it was fun. It works on two levels as a comedy and a book about the writing of thrillers, but also it works as a thriller. It's been optioned several times for features and TV shows that have never happened. Um, it still could at some point, I suppose. I have a
Mhm.
lot of affection for those characters, and I've referenced Ian Ludlow in my Eve Ronin novels. Eve Ronin's dad used to direct episodes of the TV show that Ian Ludlow worked on. And of course, Ian Ludlow is a reference to me because that was my pseudonym when I was writing those vigilante novels. So, and Ian Ludlow also has appeared in Diagnosis Murder novels and Monk novels. Not the same Ian Ludlow that's in True Fiction, but sort of just me amusing myself, a little inside joke. But even in the Eve Ronin novels, I call back to other books. Uh, the lead character from my novel Watch Me Die has shown up in Eve Ronin, and Fox O'Hare have shown up in Eve Ronin. And if you've read Calico, Beth McDade, who's in Calico, shows up in the new Eve Ronin.
All right.
Oh,
Well, it's good to know because she says she likes when there is some humor in a murder mystery. So there you
All
go, Belinda.
Belinda, all my books have humor in them because I don't believe in a world without humor. Even in the worst, saddest, most tragic experiences of my life, there's always been humor. So I find books that don't have humor to be totally unrealistic and insanely dull because life is often very funny and often at the worst times. So my books, I hope,
Uh-huh.
are not all punchlines and sitcom stuff, but
mm.
humor that arises from the interaction of characters and expresses their own conflicts, fears, and insecurities.
All right. Candy says, hello, Mr. Goldberg. Nice to meet you.
Mr. Goldberg. I prefer Your Highness, but I'll take Mr. Goldberg.
Okay. Um, let's see. Belinda says it's funny and a good idea too about the recording the phone calls that, everybody hates getting those
Yeah,
type
if
of
you go to
scamming
my if
calls.
my you go to my YouTube page, you'll see a
Mhm.
bunch of the phone calls.
Yeah. Lauren would like to know, what was your favorite show that you ever worked on?
Good
Well,
question.
I guess I would have to say Diagnosis Murder. Even if it wasn't, it was just a great experience to do that show. Dick Van Dyke was a pleasure to work with. We had a lot of fun. We had a huge impact on that show. When Bill Rabkin and I came into it, the show was in the sewer in terms of ratings, and we were able to make it a monster hit. And when we left, the ratings tumbled, but it was great to have that impact, and it was great fun. Creatively, um, Monk was a lot of fun. I was not on staff on that show. I was a freelancer, but it was so much fun writing that character. And I'm having a great time right now on You're Killing Me, working with Brooke Shields and a terrific writing staff, and it's just been a blast.
Let's
The
see.
worst experience was Baywatch by far. It was
They
just-
watch.
oh God, it was
Wait,
bad.
wait, what
Number
about
one.
Flipper?
And thank you for mentioning the new adventures of Flipper. God, but also Martial Law was no great fun either, working with Sammo Hung and Arsenio Hall. But Flipper, I was not there day to day. I just wrote some episodes. I'd rather forget
Okay, we won't bring
Flipper up.
the F word up again.
The F word.
Um, let's see. Okay, so Amanda says she's going to have to check out those phone calls. Tamara's catching, she came in late, so she's catching up on what she's missed on the Zoom. And let's see. And do you have a favorite author other than yourself?
I'm not my favorite author. I believe I'm
Oh,
the
okay.
biggest fraud going. I look at my stuff going, I fooled them again. How can people buy my crap? I would
We love
say
your crap.
I
Love
would,
it.
I'm always afraid that this is the
It.
book that's going to reveal the fraud. I know I am. But as far as favorite books go, I would say probably my favorite author is Larry McMurtry. My favorite book of all time is Lonesome Dove. I just love that book. I mean, that doesn't mean he hasn't written some terrible books. He has, but by and large, I love Larry McMurtry. I love the early Robert B. Parkers. I love Elmore Leonard. The book Fletch and Confess Fletch by Gregory MacDonald had a huge impact on me as a writer. The later Fletch books were not very good, but those two really made me realize that I could be a writer. They were dialogue driven. It made writing novels feel possible to me. Um, I like John Irving, though I've not read the last 35 of his 910-page books, but I was a fan of his for quite some time. But I would say overall, the book Lonesome Dove is one I've learned a lot from. There's so much. It's such a great book on so many levels.
So we asked you who your favorite author was in a book that you like to read. Does your family read your books before they're released and give you feedback?
Absolutely not. They don't even read my books when they're released. Um, I've written too many books. I mean, my wife, I think, has read of the 50 or 60 books I've written, maybe she's read two or three. Um, no, my family doesn't read my books. My sister does. I take it back. My sister reads or listens. My sister Karen reads or listens to most of my books. My brother Todd, who's a novelist as well and a New York Times bestselling author, and runs a graduate school that teaches writing. He has read probably more of my books than anyone else in my family, but not before they come out. We give each other a lot of advice. I mean, I can call Todd at 2 in the morning. He'll be up writing and ask him a question about something I'm dealing with in my book. Um, he's a very different kind of writer than me. He's more of a literary fiction writer than I am. I'm more of a popular mass market kind of fiction writer. But we both write crime novels, and we're both there for each other a lot in terms of helping each other deal with the business and writing. But no, my family not only doesn't read my books, they don't watch my TV shows. If my ego was wrapped up in my family watching my TV shows, I would have committed suicide by now. I can't count the times my wife has fallen asleep watching something I've written. So,
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Well, thank God you don't have to rely on them for feedback.
there
You'd be
you
waiting
go.
forever. Lee, I can't believe the hour has flown by. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
amazing.
It was.
Amazing. It's always a good time when you come in. I forgot to ask, you do have a giveaway. We're gonna have
Yes.
one winner. What are you giving away?
I'm giving away the newspaper I read this morning autograph. No, what would I give away is
Awesome.
a copy of my new novel, Fallen Star, autograph to the person who wins it or to whoever they want me to autograph it to.
All right. So,
Right.
guys, tomorrow we're going to take all the names of everyone who participated on the Zoom, everyone who participated on Facebook. We're going to say, hey, Lee, pick a winner. And we will make a winner's post and we'll gather all the information and send it to Lee
And it'll be
tomorrow.
totally, I mean, I'm going to take all the names and just throw them literally into a hat and just
Oh,
pull one out. I'll cut them
thank
up
you.
because I don't want anyone to think I'm showing favoritism.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Lee. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
everybody, for joining us tonight. Lee, I don't know if we have you lined up for 2026, but we need to figure that one out too.
I don't know if I'm free in 2026. We'll have to see.
Maybe 2027.
Well, we'll figure it out. Hang on, Lee, for 1 minute. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Yes.
Let me just quick pull the calendar out.
Yes. Hang on. All right. In the meantime, let me stop recording. Give me a moment. And do this.
So